les statistiques disent aussi qu'il faut, depuis maintenant un certain temps, une croissance d'au moins 7% pour faire face à la pauvreté. Une croissance économique de qualité. De qualité parce que, comme j'ai coutume de le dire, que tout le monde aura pris part à cette croissance. La croissance étant perçue comme la valeur ajoutée. La valeur qui vient par rapport à ce qui est fait l'année précédente. Par exemple, nous sommes en 2013. Si nous parlons de la croissance ou de l'accroissement du produit intérieur brut, n'est-ce pas? C'est ce que la nation a ajouté du point de son travail par rapport à ce que la nation a fait un an plus tôt. Par exemple, l'année dernière, en 2012, les statistiques des Nations Unies de la communauté internationale ont estimé que notre nation, le Bénin, a accru sa richesse de 5,4% en 2012 par rapport à 2011. Ce qui est souhaitable.
To thank him for the honor done me in awarding me an honor of Benin yesterday evening. I'm very proud of it, and I'm proud to wear the Grand Cross of Benin. Thank you, the people of Benin. Indeed, it is going to spur me to work further and even harder for the closer relationship between our two countries. As you know, our two countries have had historical links, and so we're one people. Everywhere in the world, the challenge faced by leaders is how to find employment for its people. In the case of Africa, we have a continent whose population is expanding. Africa has the fastest growing population in the world. Now, that is an advantage and a disadvantage depending on how we manage it. It is an advantage because we have a youthful population, we have a strong, virile labor force that we can put to work to be able to grow our economies. It can be a disadvantage too because if we're not creating jobs fast enough and youth are coming out of school and they're not getting jobs, then it can be a factor for social destabilization. And so we need to take the issue of youth unemployment very seriously. And so every country should put youth unemployment on its national security agenda, because if plans are not rolled out to ensure that you engage the youth, then you can have a problem in terms of destabilization and social deviancy. I'll talk of two major issues which could be a constraint to employment generation, and one President Yayi has always touched on, and that is energy. Because our economies are growing, averagely economies in Africa are growing at 6% per annum. And what that means is that the demand for energy is also growing. And so you need to have power in order that the economy can grow and be able to create jobs within the economy. And that's why President Yayi is always on the telephone with me discussing issues of energy. And I laud the efforts he's making to make Benin self-sufficient in energy production. Yesterday, I went with him to visit the new power plant that has been put there and discuss the constraints of extending the gas pipeline so that you can use gas to run that power plant in order to be able to produce some of the energy that Benin needs. But I want to assure President Boni, and I've assured him, that the link that was established between our two countries from President Nkrumah's time when the Akosombo Dam was built and Ghana undertook to supply energy to Togo and Benin is a commitment that I uphold and will continue to ensure that I will continue to ensure that whatever power we generate, we share with our neighbors we share with Togo and Benin. Ghana has a comparative advantage for power production because of the huge hydro potential that we have. We have the Akosombo Dam. We're almost commissioning another dam in a place called Bui in the northern part of Ghana. And we have the potential for mini hydros that can produce between 50 megawatts and 100 megawatts in 16 different sites. We call them micro dams. We're trying to develop all those and bring them on stream. Apart from that, the recent discovery of large quantities of gas offshore means that Ghana can put in more thermal generation using that gas to produce electricity. And so as we increase our generation, we will make sure that we are able to share that generation with our neighbors, especially Togo and Benin. And so that is one of the major constraints to development. Another important issue that we must advert our minds to as leaders is the issue of integration. We are all members of ECOWAS. ECOWAS was inaugurated in the year 1975. We have managed to make some progress in terms of various protocols that we have passed. One is the free movement of people, our people across the sub-region. And we have achieved that. Everybody has a 90-day free visa entry into each other's countries. And so our people are able to travel visa-free to each other's countries. That is a good thing. But why allow only people to travel and yet goods cannot travel? And yet, if we are able to integrate our economies and remove the barriers to movement of goods and services, it will be a win-win situation for all of us. Now, can you imagine the economies of scale we will enjoy if those barriers were removed? One, it will make us more competitive, it will improve the economies of scale, it will increase the market size, and make that manufacturing justifiable. We must make integration a reality. No country would lose. Now, in Ghana, we also have the challenge of youth unemployment. There is no one solution to the problem. It needs multiple interventions to be able to resolve the problem of youth unemployment. But let me say that the first solution to youth unemployment and job creation is accelerated growth. And so we have come out with a policy to say that our target growth must not be less than 8% in a year. And we're doing everything to ensure that the economy continues to grow at not less than 8% per year. If your economy is expanding, then naturally it is creating jobs within the economy. And so in order to absorb the youth and make sure that they are finding jobs, you must be growing at above 8% per annum. That is the recommended growth for making the transition from lower middle income to middle income. The second point to take note of is to focus on the development of small and medium enterprises, because anywhere in the world, the actual drivers of economic growth are the small and medium enterprises. And so if you pay attention to your small and medium enterprises, then you create the necessary conditions for jobs to appear within your economy and for your economy to grow. Aside from that, growth must be shared. You can't have growth that benefits only a small segment of society. If you grow by 8% per annum, you must make sure that that growth is shared along the class chain, so that everybody is earning, everybody is investing in their own small way, and they're helping to expand your economy. And so sharing growth is an important issue to look at. And so naturally the economy is expanding, it's creating jobs, but you must put in specific interventions that help to stimulate that process. And in Ghana, we have several of such interventions. I'll just take them one by one and explain them briefly so that you understand what we're doing in those areas. We have the labor-intensive public works policy. And this labor-intensive public works policy involves using more labor-intensive methods, for projects that we're doing than using more mechanized methods. And we do this mostly in the rural areas. And so if you want to build a project, rather than bring all the latest machines and, just build it in seconds, you give it to the community mobilizes itself. They produce their blocks, they mix their cement, they do their concrete and everything, and then they build the project. And so you find that in the course of doing that project, you have more people employed than if you had given the project on contract. If you give it to a contractor, he'll come with his concrete mixers, his electric block making machines, and then employ just a few people and then put up a project quickly. But if you give it to the community and say, use labor-intensive methods to put this up, then the community is involved in it, and while they are working, they are being given a daily subsistence allowance during the period that they are working. So that's the labor-intensive public works policy. You can bring automatic street cleaners to clean your streets. And so one truck, one driver, he puts diesel in, he drives along the road, and for those of you who've gone to Europe, they use a lot of these trucks to clean the streets. And he drives along the road and it just sweeps the street. In many of our cities, we have apportioned the roads to different people, and especially women, illiterate women who haven't been to school. And so in the night, she has a 1 kilometer stretch that she is responsible for cleaning. So she comes with her broom, she sweeps it, she collects the rubbish, and she gets paid for it. We could have brought trucks to do it, but you bring the truck and you put about 20 or 30 women out of jobs because that truck can do that same job in a short time. These are just a few examples of the labor-intensive public works policy that we have. Then we have the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneurial Development Project. This is actually our flagship youth project. It used to be called the National Youth Employment Program. And that program is a program that has affected hundreds of thousands of young people in Ghana. Recently, we've had problems of having to restructure it. We're restructuring it so that we make it more effective. There had been a few problems and loopholes that people took advantage of, but we're working on that. One, they introduced modules that they were not supervising properly, and so we didn't get the optimal number of people trained for the modules that they gave. But there are different modules under the Youth Employment Program. There is a module for sanitation, where young people are involved in sanitation work in the urban centers, indeed in all the districts. There are modules for training young people in dressmaking. There are modules for training auto mechanics. There are modules for training welders. There are modules for training people who repair vehicle tires. There are various modules, so many of them. There's a module for young people who want to go into providing taxi services. And so you're trained in driving and how to offer courteous services to your passengers. And at the end of it, you're giving a vehicle, and you have to work with the vehicle and pay for the cost of the vehicle. So there are various innovative, modules that exist under the Youth Employment Program that give training to young people. And always at the end of the training, the young person is given the tools with which to start work. And so if you are trained as a welder, at the end of the training, you are giving a welding plant, and you're giving a period to work with a welding plant and pay back, the facility that you are giving. And a lot of young people have benefited from this program. Develop the capacity of your young people to be able to find work in this sector. What happens is that the foreign oil companies come, they set up, they bring all the workers, expatriates, everybody from outside, and your people just sit and watch, and they just drill the oil, and that's it. It doesn't have any effect on your employment statistics. And so we, are passing what we call a local content bill that forces foreign oil companies or companies working in the oil industry to recruit a certain amount of their labor locally. Now, you can't force them to do so when you have not provided the skilled labor. And so the oil is found mostly in the western part of Ghana, that is in the western region. There are two schools there, the Takoradi Polytechnic and the Takoradi Technical Institute. We have made them centers of training for oil and gas. And so a lot of the young people who come out of school, we send them there for training. And they train in different skills. They train in, welding and fabrication. They train as electrical technicians. They train as plumbers, because even plumbers are required. The thing is, the oil services industry requires a high level of training, because if they say weld something, they want you to weld it to a certain standard. It's not the type of welding you do on your old car or something you bump in a pothole and it breaks. In the oil industry, if you weld like that and something happens, there can be a major accident. And so the level of training in oil industry is not the kind of training you do for ordinary life. And so these institutions show how to weld to the highest standard, how to do plumbing to the highest standard, how to do electrical work to the highest standard, so that you can qualify to work in the oil industry. And we're churning out more and more young Ghanaians who can find employment in that sector. But we're not leaving it just to the discretion of the oil companies to employ them. We're compelling them to do so with the local content provision that we have passed. And so that is another area that is seeing increasing numbers of people. But probably one of the best things that have happened that Ghanaians have not really taken into consideration in terms of job creation is availability of electricity. In the past, you could find electricity mostly only in the regional capitals. Most of the communities did not have electricity. And if there's no power in a community, there's a limit to what kind of work you can do. Over the years, successive governments have undertaken what we call a national electrification program, and a component of it is what we call the self-help electrification program, where we got communities to contribute a certain part towards electrifying their communities. And today, Ghana's electricity connectivity is probably the highest in West Africa. It stands at 72%. 72% of our population have access to electricity. And you can imagine the change it does to a village when electricity comes. Suddenly you can have all kinds of, micro industries. You just notice it as soon as a community is connected. A lady puts a small container, she puts a deep freezer there, she starts selling cold water. And that alone changes the economy of her family. A young man comes and puts an electric welding plant, and he starts welding, things for people. And so electricity changes the lives of people, and that is one of the things that has helped with youth employment in Ghana. Because of the availability of electricity in almost all parts of the country, young people are able to establish industries or little businesses and are able to run them. But if you are training students in areas that industry and the world of work does not need, then definitely you're going to have an unemployment problem. And that is part of our problem. I don't know about Benin, but in Ghana, that is also part of our problem. If you finish university and you do Roman civilization, and you come out, you are a professor in Roman civilization, where are you going to work? Well, unless you lecture in the university and teach more Roman civilization students. A lot of students are avoiding science and mathematics and the more technical subjects. I don't know if you do the same here. And everybody is going for the softer humanities and history and marketing and those softer subjects. But there's a saturation of marketing. How many goods are there to sell? Anyway, everybody wants to sell goods. I'm a marketer. And so you produce so many marketing people, but there are only so many jobs for marketing. And then you have industry saying, we want electrical technicians. Nobody wants to do electrical engineering. He says, so we want mechanical engineers. Just very few want to do mechanical engineering. And so you have a structural unemployment problem. And so you have people who say, I'm an unemployed graduate. And he's an unemployed graduate because he's specialized in an area that industry does not need, or the world of work is not looking for. Everybody is doing an MBA today. Everybody is doing an MBA today. Of course, you can find work, but sometimes you won't be able to find work. And so we must encourage more of our young people to look at the science and technologies to what drives development of countries is the middle level technical services. Those who finish polytechnics, electrical engineering, HND. Those who finish polytechnics, is that mechanical engineering. Those who finish, school, he's done geology because they need them in the mines. And so you must look at what industry wants and then fix the school curriculum to suit and produce what industry is looking for. And so we've been talking, and later this year, we intend to hold a forum where we're going to bring all our universities and our polytechnics, and we're going to bring all our employers and manufacturers association, and they're going to have a discussion on how to fix what they need with what we are producing from our universities and our polytechnics. And I think that will be a very useful exercise to shape the curriculum to ensure that the graduates and the young people we are churning out are able to find work in industry and manufacturing and services. And so this is an area that we also need to look at. But finally, we look down on technical and vocational training, but that is the area that drives the development of all countries. Often it is those who are not able to qualify for university or are not able to continue into secondary school. When we leave a certain level and you are not able to continue, then those who can't continue go to technical and vocational schools. But that should not be the case. If you look at countries like Germany, technical and vocational school is very popular. Indeed, some people just come out of the secondary system and go straight to the technical and vocational schools. They finish there and immediately come out and they get a job.
Nous allons dire merci.